10-minute topic, realistically better and all that. Yeah, I'm Justin from Scale Model Scenery. This is the 10-minute topic for April the 27th. We're continuing on from last week where we spoke about modelling roads, looked at the width of double low gauge roads and also how steep a gradient you can have. This week I'm taking a quick look at the materials, or discussing the materials you can use for modelling a road. Plenty of choice really for modelling roads in any scale, not just double O. Probably focus on double O because that's what I do and what I know, but lots of choice and lots of materials, and there's no right answer for this. It's a case of, again, choosing what you think is best for you, what suits you best. So I'll look at some of the materials you can use and just talk about those, and a few things to look out for, pros and cons of each thing, and try and keep it to 10 minutes today rather than being half an hour of me waffling. So we'll keep it short and sweet. Okay, materials for modelling roads. I think you've got a choice of 5 or 6 different materials. It might be a few more, but 5 key ones. Printed vinyl self-adhesive roads. There's quite a few of those popped up on eBay and places like that, which are okay. They have a good and bad points. Self-adhesive foam roads, which the likes of Gagemaster, Faller, Knock and people like that do. In fact, the Gagemaster ones are made by Knock, I think, and they're okay. I'll talk about those as well. Resin road sections from Hornby Scaledale range. And then you've got card and paper printed roads from Scale Scenes. We do a few bits and bobs. Lots of other manufacturers do card and paper roads. And then of course you've got the DIY options, of which there are many. So we'll whiz through a few, some of the pros and cons, and hopefully find this useful. It may help you choose the best roads for your layout. I'm not going to demonstrate anything. I'm literally just talking about the different types of materials and methods you've got for modelling roads. So vinyl roads, these are actually look quite appealing. They're self-adhesive, so they're quick and easy to work with. There's a good range of them available on eBay. The only issue with these that I see, having only used our own sort of version of self-adhesive markings, is they can be a little bit difficult to work with. Only for the fact that most of it is permanent adhesive, so you've got kind of one shot at getting it down. If you don't get it in the right place first time, yes, you can probably reposition it slightly, but you've got to be careful. It can tend to stretch. If it's done on Signwriter's vinyl, it tends to be slightly elastic, so if you peel it back up again and try and smooth it down, it's often stretched a bit, so you don't get quite the the finish that you'd really want. Colours tend to be a little bit bold. The ones that I've seen, the colours are quite black. I'm not slating anybody. As we discussed last week, roads aren't necessarily black. They tend to be more grey, light greys particularly. A lot of the vinyl products are very black and not that realistic, so they will need weathering. They're not that true to life straight from the packet, so you'll need to weather them down. Obviously, unless you're modelling brand new roads, in which case fine, black is alright. You tend to be stuck with rigid road layouts as well. You've got certain curves and different radius bends, but you tend to be a little bit stuck with what you can do. So if you want a nice long sweeping curve, or you want country lanes that vary in width, as we discussed last week, you're perhaps a little bit stuck there. And they tend to have, as do our products, which are printed on a laser printer. If they're done on a Signwriter's UV printer, they often tend to have a slight sheen to them, so they'll be a bit shiny. So they want toning down. They'll need coating with a matte lacquer. But they're still great value. You get a lot of road for your money, so they're really good value. Next one, self-adhesive roads. Okay, Knock, Faller, Gagemaster do self-adhesive foam roads. They are a little bit more realistic in appearance, in my opinion. The issue with them is that they have a lack of junctions and road markings and things like that, so you need to look at just plain sheets or simple road sections. It's fine if you want a short section of road. These are great. Again, they're a little bit stretchy when you stick them down. If you don't quite get them in the right place, you've got to peel them back up again. The tendency to rip, but they're good. I say the texture on them is a little bit better because they're foam. They remind me actually of self-adhesive like pipe lagging. When I used to work at Sanyo, they used to put lagging around all the fridge pipes, and they used to have very thin, stretchy, kind of neoprene sort of rubber that used to wrap around the joints, and it reminds me of that. Actually, it might even be that. But anyway, it's fairly straightforward to work with. It's self-adhesive, quick and easy. So if you know what you're doing, you want to just put a simple short section of road in, bang, great option. So limited on road markings and junctions, particularly for the UK. A lot of it is because it's made by Nock and Faller. They're German companies. They tend to model, you know, where we drive onto the side of the road, drive on the right hand side of the road. So all the junctions tend to be back to front because they're European targeted. But they're still, you know, they're okay, good value. Resin roads. There's a few manufacturers out there do resin sections. Hornby, particularly in their Scaledale range, have resin road sections. These look a lot better in terms of road or realistic appearance. The only issue is they come in sections. So you've got joints every 6-8 inches or whatever. You've got a joint. Also, they're a lot thicker. You're looking at a road section that's about, you know, 4, 5, 6 mil thick, something like that. I can't remember because I've not got an option, one of them here, but I've had a look at them in the past. I think they're about 6 or 8 mil thick. So they're quite chunky. So you've got to raise your buildings up. So if you're going for Scaledale stuff, yes, you've got a lot of choice of junctions and sections and things. Availability is also an issue actually, because Scaledale stuff tends to be done in batches, and they sell out and you can't get hold of certain sections. So just make sure that if you're building a road using the Scaledale sections, you can get all of the bits you need, and don't go, right, I've got a nice long straight here, I've got a couple of curves and a T-junction, oh, I can't get a roundabout, or I need extra straights and just can't get hold of them. So check the availability before you go and decide to go, just for Hornby stuff. It's really nice, it looks good, the weathering's much better than other options, but say you are a bit limited on sometimes on the availability of junctions and things like that. And if obviously, as I just said, you've got to raise your buildings up from your baseboard. So if you've got your baseboard and then your road's going to sit that high, otherwise your houses are all going to sit down there. You're going to have to raise them up on a piece of MDF or timber or whatever, the same height, or card. So you've got to pack them to make the right height. Downloadable card and paper versions. This is probably which way I would lean, because you've got the flexibility of printing the sections you want. So if you want 40 sections of dual carriageway, print 40 sections. If you want 6 roundabouts, print 6 roundabouts. You've got a lot more flexibility there. The issue with them is they can be susceptible to damp and get wood lice on your layout. If it's in a shed, they'll just eat it away. So you end up with sections of road. You end up with potholes where you don't want potholes, put it that way. And they appear naturally overnight. So you need to probably look at protecting them with a varnish or something like that. You've got plenty of choice though. ScaleScenes do a brilliant set of road stuff. Can't remember what it's called and what the part number is, but just look on ScaleScenes website. Does some great stuff. Complete selection of road sections. Easy to work with. Just print as much as you like. Gluing it down is probably the only place you'll come across issues. You can glue it to a baseboard using Pritt Stick or Yoo-Hoo or whatever other paper glue you want, or Deluxe View glue. That works well. The only issue is if your baseboard's not perfectly flat, or you've got bits of sawdust or whatever on the baseboard you don't notice, you're going to end up with little lumps which you might not be happy with. So just be careful. Make sure your area is clean. Kathy Millat's got a fantastic video on how to model roads, which we put in last weekend's newsletter. If you missed it, jump onto the newsletter section on the Railway Modelers Club. It's railwaymodelers.com. Log in, jump into you're watching this anyway on here now, but if you're not on there and you're watching this on YouTube, railwaymodelers.com. Log in, go to the newsletters and look for last weekend's newsletters, which I think is about April the 20th-ish. There's a link to Kathy Millat's video on how to model roads. She's used the DIY method. Lots of DIY methods including mixing plaster with PVA and spreading it. You can use plaster on its own. Woodland Scenics, as I just mentioned, do a kit using their plaster. Gives an ideal base. Friend of mine who's built a few dioramas for us, he has a technique using plaster, and then he uses grey emulsions on top, different shades that he's bought from B&Q or wherever, and then he'll use talcum powder. Now talcum powder can be sprinkled onto the wet road surface as it's drying, and as it just brush off any excess as it dries, and you can create a realistic asphalt appearance. It's quite easy to do. You can then weather it down. The only issue now is talcum powder is perhaps a little bit scarce because few manufacturers have withdrawn it from the market for health reasons. So we'll look for some other fine powder. I don't know, bicarbonate of soda might work if it's fine enough. That's pretty inert and won't hurt you. Back to the pros and cons of doing your own DIY thing. DIY roads tend to be slightly more advanced. You're looking at, if you paint a road with undercoat or a grey emulsion, it's going to look okay, but it's going to need weathering, going to need a bit of extra detailing. If you want to get really advanced, you're going to need to sort of make your road true to life. You're going to want to add a little camber. Camber is where the road is slightly higher in the middle of the road, and at the edge it's slightly lower to allow rainwater to run off. So that needs modelling. If you're going to model that, you can do it. If you're doing it with paper, you can shim the paper in the middle. You use cardboard underneath, and you can raise the centre of it, of the road. Lay the asphalt sheets onto cardboard, and just bend the top layer of cardboard a little bit. As mentioned by Rob, Luke Towan's got fantastic videos as well on making dusty roads. Loads of different methods, plenty of videos out there. I won't show you how to do it because there's loads of places that, loads of channels that show you how to do it way better than I could. I'm just discussing the options you've got out there and which ones are best. Or which ones suit you better. It's not about what I think is best, it's about what you think is best. Some people use wet and dry paper, wet and dry sandpaper. It's not too bad an option actually. The texture on it is quite good. It will need weathering. The issue there is because it's sandpaper, it is abrasive. If you catch your fingernails on it, it tends to remove a bit of your fingernail. That's not a problem. It's the mark it leaves on the sandpaper that perhaps will bug you for years because you scrape your finger on it as you were laying it down and you've left a big white line or whatever. So lots of things to consider. Hopefully this is of some use to you anyway. Things to think about when you're planning your roads for your layout. Think about the prominence of the roads on your layout, how they will fit in around your buildings. Start looking at Google Maps, look at the way roads flow around a village, whatever. Just pay attention to shapes and the way bends and junctions are laid out. Think about the prominence of them on your layout and the space you've got. Can you get away with just a short section of road, in which case just 2 or 3 sections of Scaledale Road will do this bit here by these houses, that's all I need, and I've got the impression of it being a busy town. You don't need to necessarily have loads and loads of roads or interlinked and goodness knows what. Are they going to be a main feature, or is it just literally a hint of a road? You can use a short section of dual carriageway. A dual carriageway, as we discussed last week, takes up a huge amount of room, nearly 400 mil of room on your baseboard, 400 mil wide section on a double O gauge layout. That's massive. Now, you only need a foot of it and the crossing going diagonally across the corner of a layout to give the impression of there being a busy dual carriageway in the area that you're modelling. So you don't need to go, right, I'm going to have 20 foot of dual carriageway here and I'm going to fill it with loads of cars. Just a short section, 2 or 3 cars, a bit of detailing, you've got the impression of there being a busy dual carriageway, a motorway or whatever. It doesn't have to be a huge feature. And choose the method that you feel the most comfortable with. Paper printed roads are a great one to play around with for a start to get you going. Print some sections off, grab some scrap sheets of MDF, whatever, an old bit of a kitchen cabinet, whatever you've got kicking around in the shed, something like that, and try building a small section of road and just see how it looks. Practice your techniques on a spare bit of board. Practice painting, practice the shading, the weathering and all that kind of stuff. More useful YouTube channels being mentioned. Chandwell, he's a member of the Railway Modelers Club. He's got great videos on there. He uses Inkscape for a lot of stuff. Draw your own roads, but concentrate on the colouring. The colouring is the thing that will, in my opinion, is the thing that will make or break it. Too dark, too black, it's going to look weird. Go for greys. Go lighter than you think it probably should be, and you're about right. And excuse the noise, it is peeing it down here this morning, so it's really quite noisy. So that's all I'm going to cover today. There's some options there for modelling roads. I'll quickly recap. 5 methods for modelling double O gauge roads or any scale roads. Printed self-adhesive vinyl. There's plenty of choice for junctions, straights, curves, but you're limited as far as the colours are concerned and the finish. Self-adhesive foam roads from Gagemaster, Knock, Fowler, etc. Great value, easy to work with, self-adhesive, peel, stick, job done. The issue is the lack of junctions, curves and things like that, and getting it to look realistic in terms of the number, the road markings and that kind of thing. Resin road sections from Hornby, great value, look really good, except for you've got joints every 6-8 inches. You're going to have to fill the joints, then you've got to look at blending them in. Card and paper roads, my personal preference, print as many as you want, create all sorts of custom sections, lots of choice as far as the junctions are concerned, some great kits out there. DIY with filler and paint, yeah, great option if you like doing that. If you like working with filler, like getting a bit messy, you can do some really good stuff. You can start in, you can model advanced features of roads like, say, camber and various other things, and it's easy then to embed other details like manholes and drains, which I'll come to next week. So there you go, that's 5 ways of modelling roads. Alright, thanks for watching this week's Realistically Better. Hopefully I'll be back, might not be next week because we're in Liverpool I think, so it might be the week after. If you find these useful, give it a like, give it a share on whatever you're watching it on, and feel free to post your comments about how you model roads, please. I'd like to see your techniques. Post your pictures in the comments on this. I'll post it up so everybody can see this and watch it again if you want to, but love to see your work. Show us what you've done with road markings and that kind of thing. We'll cover more advanced techniques, road markings, detailing and that in a week or two's time. Alright, thanks for watching, have a good day.